All right. So, welcome, Jake, to the podcast. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for putting your name in. So, you were one of the fewer people who have put their name on the form without me asking, or I don't actually formally know you. I know you from
Right.
LinkedIn.
Yep.
So, thank you for coming on. I want to run down kind of through your CV. Some of this you did put in the podcast form. Some of this I stole from the internet. So, currently, you are the BD manager of Viocity Group, correct? I said that correctly?
Yes, not Velocity Group. It's Viocity Group.
Yeah.
Yes, thank
Okay. Yeah. You're into fitness and archery hunting.
you. Yep.
You are a father of 4.
Yep.
You have a side hustle with your wife.
So we did have a side hustle. We don't have a side hustle anymore, but yes.
Okay, we'll get into some of that. You
Yep.
did podcasting. I think you're a local celebrity from some of the information you gave me as well. Epic beard, and you love the power of connection, which is one of the other things you put in there.
Yeah, excellent.
Tell me more about some of that stuff. What hits you when we go down through that list? It's a pretty awesome list.
Yeah, man. So we'll start from the top. Some of my passions currently now, it's not archery season, and I don't claim to be the best archer in the world, but I just I got into archery about 4 years ago, more from one of my neighbor, my best friend, got me into archery, and I realized very quickly that I think I'm good at everything, but I'm not. And hunting is one of those things where it's like, oh, it's so simple. You just pick up your bow, you go shoot a deer, you drag it out of the woods, and it's the end of the story. And I tell you, I don't know how many deer I've missed. I don't know how many arrows I've broken. I don't know how many times I dropped my bow out of the tree stand. I actually fell out of a tree stand this past year.
Oh my goodness.
It's just been, talk about a humbling experience of learning how to archery hunt. Yeah. So I'm teaching my kids young, like the things that you do, how you do it, how you set up. But so, yeah, no, archery is a newfound passion of mine. But more recently, within the last year or last 2 years, fitness has become a really big passion of more started with my wife. And then it kind of morphed into me because I'm like, well, dang, she's getting ripped and I can't be.
Hey, I'm still here.
Yeah, like, I got to do something. So, long story short, she actually works for the gym that we now go to.
Okay, cool.
So it makes it so much easier to have a reason to go more often. But yeah, so fitness has become a huge part of my life. And I don't know if you follow all the cold plunging people and the trend of cold plunging, but cold plunging has become a huge factor in that as well.
Are you a morning plunger?
Yeah, so I'm an any time of the day I can plunge, I will plunge.
Really?
It depends. So we went as far as buying a cold plunge tank, not like
good for you,
not like one of the one of the high end ones. I bought one off of Amazon for $100, and then I popped a hole in it. So there's that. So then we bought a stock tank from Tractor Supply because we're kind of a bunch of rednecks here. So
yeah.
So, but in the wintertime, it's perfect. It freezes over. You got ice cold water. If not, I'll go to the gym and use the one there.
Okay.
But I actually like to work out at night, like 8, 9 o'clock at night. I like to go and I like to cold plunge at night, and then I have trouble sleeping, which kind of makes sense. But
that's the main argument. Well, first of all, my daughter's boyfriend is a big cold plunger. Ice hockey, D1 ice hockey player. So like it all fits, right?
Yeah, right.
And the benefits of it, of like not having to drink caffeine in the morning, especially if you do it in the morning, waking yourself up. From what I understand, it is great for, all kinds of things, from inflammation to many other things. I can't have my shower even slightly cold, Jake. So I have thought about this. I'm like, okay, let's just start by turning the shower a little bit cold before I get out. I mentally, how do I get over that? How can I get there? Because I want the benefits of it.
See, I think that's more miserable than actually jumping in the tank. See that? Because it's like the water is hitting you everywhere. And it's like, I just get me in the water, full submersion. It's not healthy, I guess, to put your head under the water. I don't always do that, but sometimes I do. But either way, it's like that it's the first 2 minutes. You got to get past the first 2 minutes. You got to let your body you're going to feel tingling and burning, and you're going to want to cry. And it is what it is. Then
your tears will freeze. So
exactly. Yeah. And then I try and get in for 4 minutes. It's not an everyday thing, but honestly, I do it for the mental side of it.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about fitness and cold plunging and all that from mental side that I've really been getting into and really trying to focus on. Like, if I don't work out, if I don't cold plunge, my day is just different. So it's just a matter of keeping up with that, and it's difficult, but it's definitely worth it.
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever thought about working out at night. So I'm just like recently, like just like over the past weekend when I got home from vacation. And I was, it was funny. I said today in my leadership group, maybe it's because I look at all these people that are really in good shape and I'm like, man, you know what? I think it's time to start getting in better shape. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm in terrible shape, but there's always room to grow in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I found a newfound, because I hate the gym. I did hate the gym. I'm finding a way to find a way to like it.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's just driving for results because I can't stand being in that place. But I have a friend who's really into powerlifting, and he's kind of giving me an easy regimen to start to get my body acclimated again, and then really start getting back into it. But yeah, I mean, how do you keep that consistency? What's your secret there?
It's been tough. So it just depends. It's honestly very seasonal, and I'm not. I
Okay.
could stand up right now and show you, take my shirt off, and you'd be like, "Dude, you're not in that great of shape." But it's more of like, but you're right. Like it is consistency. Like it goes in waves. Like I'm now into like I have the gym bro talk. Like, oh, I'm cutting right now. No, I'm bulking right now. Like, okay, this is ridiculous. But I am more in a bulk, I guess you would say right now. So
Yeah.
I feel a little bit bigger than what
I don't know
should.
what any of those words mean.
Yeah, it basically like I'm taking creatine and
Okay.
I'm lifting and I
You're
feel
yolking up, as the kids say.
exactly. Yeah. So it's yeah, no, it as far as consistency goes though, it is difficult because right now, especially with my kids being out of school, like now they're home for the summer, so that means late nights at home. Like kids are up late. I don't want to go to the gym at night. I want to hang out with them. So
Yeah,
I try
sure.
and get up and go in the morning now. Well, getting up at 4:30 to drive to the gym, 25 minutes is not fun. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of yeah. Honestly, the winter time is like the easiest time for me to get there and get things done because
Because there's nothing else to do.
exactly, and
Gotcha.
they start school at the crack of dawn, so it's easy for them to go to bed early, me to get out the door, not interrupt sleep schedules, and works out well. But yeah, consistency is difficult for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. How about this side hustle in your podcasting? What did that look like? That's very fascinating to me.
Yeah, so that started back in 2014. So we picked up some just randomly off the side of the road, picked up some pallets, just like any side business starts. You pick up a random thing off the road and you do something to it, and naturally you have a business. So we picked up this pallet, and my first daughter was born at that time. So this is 10 years ago now, and cut it. I cut this pallet into a few different pieces, and the one piece I'm like, wow, that looks like a bookshelf. And my wife's like, yeah, you should add a board to the bottom of it and make a bookshelf and paint it. And we'll put it in her room. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, great. And I'm not a master woodworker. Like,
Okay.
if you get to know me, I'm a sales guy at heart, and that's about it. I will do things. I will get them done. They won't be done perfectly, but I will get them done. So built this, put it in her room. It was great. My wife's like, oh, we should post this to Facebook and we could sell these. Like, that's a great idea. Phenomenal. So we did, and she'll tell you we had I don't even know how many hundreds of orders in like a week. It was just like
You are a master salesperson.
Well, okay. There's a little bit of a when you sell something like that painted for $10 and $5 unpainted, you can very quickly rack up a lot of orders. And then back in those days, so this was 10 years ago, people didn't show up for anything. Like
Yeah.
we had no idea what we were doing. We just said, yeah, sure, we'll make you stuff, custom orders, great. Yeah, paint you specific colors, great. Okay. And then we'd go meet them at certain places. People wouldn't show up, so we had stocks and stocks. So anyway, so that's how it all started. And then slowly morphed into one day my wife hand painted on a sign for my niece, I think it was. And then, of course, again, posted to Facebook because why not? It worked so well the first time, and we still are paying off all those people that still owe us money or whatever. No. But anyway, so that kind of morphed into our sign business, which my wife at the time, I mean, I knew she was good and artsy, but I didn't know she could hand paint the way that she does. I mean, so that was about 6 or 7 years of our lives of literally custom making wood signs. I would custom make everything. We had a whole wood shop. Like it started with like tools that I inherited from her grandpa that were from the 70s to like buying new equipment, having a whole shed full of fresh wood. Like we had deliveries of wood. Like but it was all reclaimed wood. It was all from pallets, and it was just a really neat business. And it was very successful. then it just got to the point where it just was way too much for us to handle. But we went from, we were doing signs. We had our own website. We had our own Facebook, Instagram. We were hosting events.
Jeez,
like
dude.
we were hosting like local vendor events. So we actually started out at our house, like bringing in different craft vendors.
Yeah.
And then that expanded. So then we would rent out like a barn out. We did a barn out in Ephrata. We were in Prussian Street Arcade in Mannheim. We had a booth in there for about a year and a half. So we were in a bunch of different shops and just kind of all over the place doing stuff. But it was, you want to talk about just a side hustle. I was out in the shop, out in my wood shop almost every night till 12, 1, 2 a.m. sanding signs.
Oh my goodness.
Cutting wood, shipping stuff. It was.
Did you get tired of it?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just, it was too much for us to manage. And we were so new to business. We didn't really know any better. And
were you working a day job as well?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah. Wow. So it was more than a side hustle at that point.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. We made an attempt at taking it full time for a short bit. Didn't work out, which was fine. And then we went right back into, me working again and still maintaining what we had. But yeah, it just got to a point where we couldn't mass produce what we were doing because everything was custom work. So, but it was a lot of fun.
That's crazy. How long did that business last?
So we shut that down in 2020, I think it was.
Okay.
Maybe 2021. So 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
It was a good like 4 or 5 years of just madness.
Boston.
And, yeah. you look back and you're like, and we had, through that, our fourth child was born in youngest daughter was born in 2020. So it was like right at the end of all this, we're like, 4 kids, a business, me working full time. This is not going to work. So yeah.
Wow. I won't ever complain about my schedule ever again.
No, I know. And that's how I am now too. I'm like, why? Like, I feel like we're so busy, but I look back, I'm like, man, maybe we're not that busy after all.
That's amazing. So was the podcast a part of that business thing, or was that totally separate?
No, that was, because we're already busting at the seams. So why not add something to that is kind of what we said. So yeah, no, we started, it was called the Leap podcast because everything that we did was kind of like a leap of faith. It was just like,
oh, wow, that's cool.
We don't know what we're doing. We're just going to do this. So it was kind of like a marriage podcast. It was a faith-based podcast. It was a little bit of everything.
Okay.
But back then, we didn't really know that we should have guests on or anything else. So it was just kind of like me and my wife talking the whole time, which it was fun. It was, at that time, we thought it was successful. If you look at our ratings, we were actually making money off of our ads, which was
sick.
I think we ended up making like $2.50. So
nice.
It was really successful.
Racked up.
Heck yeah. Taking that to the bank.
So what you mentioned something about you were on the news or something locally. What was that about?
Yeah, so we were on the news actually a couple different times.
All for good things?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Well, one was not such a good thing because we got it was Christmas of like 2018 or something, and so a lot of our packages we'd ship out through the post office, but we'd leave like 20 packages at our door and they'd come and pick them up, and they loved us. It was great. But the one time it was close to Christmas, and it was like when porch pirates were like a big thing. We had people come and steal some of our signs, and then somehow the news got wind of it, and they came and did a story on us, sat at our kitchen table, did the whole thing. So it was exposure for our business, and we were on like these little like smaller craft news segments as well with Fox 43. We did 2 of those.
Yeah.
We were in the Lancaster, some kind of Lancaster magazine, a local Lancaster magazine. Okay. They did a write-up on my wife. So yeah, a bunch of different things. It's just kind of, it's funny. Like, I haven't talked about it in in 3 years. And it's like kind of remembering that kind of stuff is like, seems like a whole nother life ago.
Man, that's pretty wild. That's a lot in a very small amount of time.
It really was. Really was. And now I'm like, oh, I'm so busy. I have baseball and my kids are doing this, and like, it's not that bad. It's really. Do
you miss any of the stuff you had before? So
I'm always itching for a side hustle. I think it's just I think it's always going to be in me that I'm always itching for something. So I'm very, I think a lot through that kind of stuff. Outside of work of like, okay, what could I do? And I have a lot of different ideas, and my wife kind of gets a little mad at me sometimes for sharing so many of them. But every now and then she's like, "That's a good idea."
Banger.
Yeah. I haven't started them yet, but that's a good idea. So got a few. I'm going to keep them to myself for now, because if this goes viral, I don't want anybody to steal them. So yeah.
So you put the power of connection in the Google form as well. What does that mean to you? What's that sentence? Because I thought that was I'm pretty sure I know what you mean, and I'm assuming it's going to be a non-cringy sales approach, which I greatly appreciate, which is what I think I'm going to title this, is how to not be a cringy salesperson.
I like
because
it.
a lot of people haven't figured it out, Jake. So what's your approach to the power of connection?
Yeah. So honestly, the power of connection, I think, started when I made my transition to where I am now. So,
Okay.
I've been in sales for about 15 years, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a very unique approach, I think you would say, to sales. Like, I'm not very pushy. I'm very just kind of like go with the flow, kind of. And maybe, I guess, if I look back over the 15 years, maybe it is based on my power of connection, but I just really haven't put much thought into it. But really, since I made this transition to where I am now, is the first time I really put a heavy emphasis on, like, hey, I really need to get to know people in the area, outside the area, in different markets. Like, I've been in sales, business development. I do a lot of marketing stuff, and yet I feel like I've never really truly been connected to people. And where I'm at now is based off of a keen connection that I made, years prior to that. And it's just, you don't realize the connections that you're making in that moment, how they're going to pay off years down the road. Like, you just, it could be simple as connecting on LinkedIn, saying hi, saying thank you, grabbing a coffee, whatever. It is amazing, that long-term effect that you might not see for a long time. But
yeah, it's so interesting you say that, because I don't think I actually made that big eureka moment either until recently, until I read How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. And pretty much the gist of it is, like, become genuinely interested in other people, and it'll not only help that person, but help yourself in the long run. And it's pretty much the same thing you're saying, which is part of the reason I started the podcast. One, I'm not a huge reader, but I'm forcing myself to read through our company book clubs because I think it's essential. But this podcast is another form of reading, because I'm learning things from everybody I meet. And then you have that power of connection, and that exponentially grows because they all know people, and then they'll ask them to come on, or whatever connection.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
And I think with social media, there's really no excuse anymore to say that you can't do it, because everybody can.
Right. Yep.
How much of you're a pretty avid LinkedIn person. I don't know much about your other social media, but how much do you use that as a BD person?
Yeah, so that's been the other thing, is, like, with coming to this company, I kind of feel like a door has opened up that I've been able to use that more. Not that where I came from, it was kind of a little more not monitored, but, like, you had to kind of watch what you did.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their own policies and procedures, and I abided by that. But, coming here, I'm like, okay, I'm able to break out of my shell a little bit. And, one of your things is stay weird. And there's a side of me that's a little weird, and there's a side of me that likes to do random, stupid TikTok, things that are happening. And I'm like I did one about being a sales guy wearing skinny jeans, and you'd be amazed at the people that are, like, making fun of me for wearing skinny jeans. I'm like, but it works. Like, it's sometimes those dumb little things just make an impact. But yeah, I'm not very social on really anything else at the moment other than LinkedIn, Instagram a little bit, but Facebook, I think it's kind of going to the wayside. But yeah, so LinkedIn has been kind of more of my main focus, not only just for the company that I work with, as that's a big focus with my role, but also just brand awareness and personal awareness as well. But there is a level of, like, caring and connecting with other people, which is challenging me, because I'm going to be honest, I'm up until this 6-7 months ago, I didn't care too much about people. If we're going to put it in an honest way.
I hear you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a certain part of me that I'm like, I'm a selfish person and I care about myself. But you're right. Like, if you actually put an effort towards caring about people and listening to them and connecting with them, it will actually work out in everybody's favor.
Yeah. It's interesting, and that was a little bit of my eureka moment as well. It's like, it is never. I don't put people off or don't care. It's just I didn't put the intentional effort of putting myself out there and really showing, and then actually, taking an interest in other people's hobbies. And like, even like if I would meet a new person, like I now do a bunch of research before I go meet them for coffee or breakfast, because like that, I really want to show that like everyone, you know, everyone will teach you something. But if you truly believe that, like putting in a little extra work before you meet them, it is a game changer. From really both sides, and just the conversation is just so much deeper and can be so more impactful. So
Absolutely. You kind of sound
yeah,
like a stalker, but that's okay.
dude, all of social media, that's all it is stalking.
Exactly. That's just it. That's the part I struggle with too. I'm like, I'm going to stalk you and know everything about you and then tell you about it when I get there. So,
And you're gonna go, oh my god, I'm so happy.
yeah, right. Right. Just like your picture. Like I took your picture and I made a background for myself. It didn't work, but like, I'm like, I'm going to stalk this guy and then make a bunch of pictures in my background to show his face. And,
Oh my god. It took me like 14 tries to get that picture correct. And then I actually went to Photoshop and made the picture that looked that way. Oh, I'm such a freaking nerd.
Oh, it's great.
So funny. So 2 years into college, you realized it wasn't for you. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I graduated high school 07, and that was the year when if you didn't go to college, and maybe it was a few years after that too, but if you didn't go to college, that you were just not spoken to. Like that just didn't make sense. So I mean, I distinctly remember graduating college and saying like, I'm entering the workforce. At that time I was just getting into landscaping, and yeah, I'm like, college is just not for me. Like I did fine in high school, but I just have no desire. So I graduated high school, took a year off, just did landscaping for a year until about November, December, when you just can't do landscaping anymore. So, and then January came around and I ended up getting another job, like an inside job as a telemarketing sales for a long-term company. And then, in June, I think I was like, all right, I'm going to give college a try. We're going to see what happens. So I enrolled at Lancaster Bible College. So I went to a small Christian school for high school, and then I went to LBC. Okay. So I've kind of always lived in this small bubble of schools, and which, looking back, I kind of wish I would have branched out a little bit more. But so long story short, yeah, I enrolled there, ended up joining the men's soccer team, and played 2 seasons of soccer, went to school for a year and a half, and just decided it was not for me. It wasn't worth dragging it out any further at that point.
What triggered that feeling, do you know?
Of getting out of college?
Yeah, like what triggered like, I hate this. The work.
No, it wasn't even the work. It was just honestly, like the time of sitting and learning, and like, honestly, some of like I was going for sports marketing and sports, like some of the stuff that I went for, I'm like, this is good. It's kind of enjoyable, but still at that time, I'm like, I have no idea even what I want to do with my life. Like I'm passionate about a lot of things, but not really passionate about one sole thing. Like I didn't say, hey, I want to be in the medical field. No, I want to be a teacher. No, there was nothing that ever really sunk in as like anything specific. And I'm like, if I'm going to continue to do, like, why would I continue to throw money at a degree of something that I might not even have a desire to finish or use or whatever? So whether it was the right decision or not, looking back, I'm glad I made the decision to leave. Because it set me up for where I am now. Like it got me out, got me into sales immediately. Like there was never a lull. Like it was either I'm in school or I'm working. And I got right out and got into the car business, and I was in car sales and sales management and general sales manager for 10 years. And it was a whole nother story of my life, but
did you have any family pressure for dropping out, or not dropping out, but stopping?
Honestly, I didn't really. Not really. Like I think more of that was peer pressure, like from like a lot of my peers in high school. Like I look back on that, I'm like, that was a lot of it. Like the girl I was dating at the time, thankfully I wised up and met a different girl, and now I've been married to her for 13 years. Honestly, it was a lot of like, all my peers are doing this. We had a small class. There was 40 of us that graduated, and I think 38 of them went to college, and 2 of us were not, and I was one of the 2. So, just talk about the black sheep. That was kind of what I was. So it was just, I honestly, though, my parents never really pushed me one way or another, which I appreciated, not having that push. But yeah, I'll tell you what though, like looking back, and I did play soccer for 2 years. I wasn't recruited to play soccer at that time. They started recruiting players to play for that team. And I ended up walking on, ended up being the starting goalie for 2 years. Actually ended up, I don't know if this is like a podcast to toot your own horn, but anyway, I'm going to anyway.
Yeah.
So I ended up, they picked about 2 years ago, they picked a like 75th anniversary soccer team of the top 25 players over the past 75 years. So I was picked as one of the
Sick.
two goalies for that team.
Wow.
So I was got like a whole plaque and everything a couple years ago for that. Like,
That's
it was
amazing.
just a neat like celebration and stuff. So
yeah.
like looking back, my coach, my team, like the things that I've learned from that experience set me up big time for my, my future at that point. So I'm very grateful. It was definitely not a waste of time. It was just a different way to utilize my energy.
Do you still play at all?
I haven't played soccer in, it's probably been 8-9 years since I've even played. So yeah, I'm actually, it's one of those things where I've learned to stay away from sports from like local, like my brother-in-law played D1 soccer at Bowling Green. And he's a few years younger than me now, and he just tore his ACL a couple of months ago. So it's like simple little things, just playing pickup games could ruin, some of your future.
I tore mine a couple of years ago playing at Red Rose. So now I hear that. I just realized that I got to hang the boots up.
Right. Yeah, I'd love to, but it's just not like, and plus with side hustles and kids, it's like,
and thinking about side hustles.
Right. Like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, I could start a side hustle before I join a pickup league. So
at least it might make you money.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it probably won't, honestly, if I start it. Let's be honest here.
So I want to get into, you have a lengthy sales career. Anything from telemarketer to door to used car salesman to B. So I want to talk through those. So telemarketer, what did you learn from your time in that role? Did you hate it? Did you like it? What did that look like?
Honestly, I loved telemarketing.
Get out.
I don't know what it was, but so this was like my first job. That was, so I graduated high school, worked outside doing landscaping, and then I went into telemarketing. So this was like 2008, no nothing, no nobody. Like I'm entering this workforce with all these rules and procedures. But it was literally like, you remember the green computer screens with like the old school? Yeah. So it was literally that. And an enter button, and you'd hit enter, and you'd have the phone hanging on your ear like this, and it would like start to dial the next number, and then you just start your pitch. And then people would either call you terrible names and hang up the phone, or you'd get your pitch off and you'd try and sell them however many lawn treatments they might need for that day.
Is that what you were selling, lawn treatments?
Yeah, it was for True Green Lawn Care. So
well, at least you kind of knew from your landscaping
exactly. Yes, it was really fit my skill set. So
were you good at it?
I was actually very good at it. So I did. So like the way it worked is you were in telemarketing for the winter because you can't be outside knocking doors. So then in the springtime, then you go outside and knock doors. Well, you want to talk about absolutely hating something. I avoided that as much as I could. That was, I knocked doors with 2 different companies in my life. And it's probably one of like my most terrifying things I've ever had to do in my life. But no, telemarketing was fun. And
what was scary about the door-to-door? Just the rejection in your face?
The rejection and just like not even knowing who's going to answer the door. And it's just awkward. Like it's weird. I was not comfortable. I still to this day would not want to do that if I had to. Like I don't, and if I'm being honest, like I'm in sales, I'm in business development. I don't even love like walking into a business cold, like without having a connection made. Like that is not how I'm wired. I will 100% do it. I hate it, but I'll do it. But no, there's something like going back to kind of like the telemarketing side of it. I think the thing that really drove me there was I'm very goal driven. So like I like to win. I like to have goals. I like to hit the goals, and I like to exceed the goals. So I think in the telemarketing side of it, I was able to really hit targets and beat the targets, and just if you put like a prize at the end too, like I'm going to do even more. So
you're going through it, right?
Yeah. So they would have like these Saturday like sale-a-thon thing. It felt like The Office. Like if you think back on it, it's like Jim and Pam are sitting next to me, we're having these stupid sell-a-thons and whatever. But yeah, we'd win like golf clubs,
mega desk.
Yeah, it's just like all these stupid things. But So
that's really funny because when you say telemarketer, everyone obviously immediately thinks of all of the getting the calls and being so irritating. And yeah, I mean, obviously you're not that afraid of rejection because telemarketing rejection is probably one of the most epic things. I mean, people have entire YouTube videos on how to reject telemarketers,
yeah,
but being on the phone was your protection. I guess that it was just a hang up.
yeah, right. Yep.
Okay. That's fascinating. I don't think I've ever talked to someone who was a telemarketer and then you enjoyed it on top of
I'll
it.
tell you
You
what,
are
it
a
was fun.
weird human being.
I wouldn't want to do it forever, but at that time in my life, it was
Okay.
quite interesting and fun. And it was
Do you? No, go ahead. Sorry.
no, it was like the people that you're surrounded with. You have some people that are like, I was sitting next to like a 75-year-old guy, and then you have another guy that's like 35 and smoking a pack of cigarettes every hour. Like, it's just like, coming from where I came from to there, I was like, this is so weird, but it's so unique and just memories made. So,
Are you friendly to telemarketers now who call you because of your past?
absolutely not. No, I am like the worst person when you call me, and
You can do better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. Actually, it's kind of funny. I get, for whatever reason, my phone number is, so it's 717, but out in California, there's must be a 757 area code.
Okay.
And my number must be identical to this like Chinese pharmacy.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm not even going to get into it, but it gets bad. I'll tell people their prescriptions are ready. Like, oh, it's not good. I shouldn't get into this on a live podcast, but yeah, it doesn't happen often. But when it does, my wife's like, "You really need to stop that. You're gonna make people think that like they're going in to pick up their stuff." And I'm like, sorry.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
So the door to door, you hated it. Is there anything you learned? So what was the main skill you learned from the telemarketer first?
That was a smile and dial was our slogan. So always have a smile on your face. That, it's kind of
people
funny
can hear your smile. Dale
Absolutely.
Carnegie said the same thing. They can hear it through your voice.
Yep, that's funny. I haven't said that in a long time. But
smile when you die. I love that.
Funny the things that you remember. But it's no different in telemarketing or car sales or B2B sales anywhere. Like, people can sense that in your tone. If you're leaving a message, smile before you leave a message. Like, it's just that feeling you get when you leave a message, or, not that we really call and leave messages like we used to, but still, it's the tone in your voice definitely makes a difference.
That's brilliant. I actually love that. What did you learn from the door-to-door stuff, even though you hated it?
Oh, I think that's all I learned, that I never want to do it again, because what's even worse than that is then I did it again for a solar company, and this was back before solar was kind of starting out and
cool.
Yeah, like, and you had people like, I have nothing against solar. Like, there's no issues there, but I like to just sell things. I don't really necessarily need to believe in you should believe in what you're selling, but I couldn't back it up. I'm like,
rule number 2.
Yeah, like, I can't really buy into this solar thing right now. So I struggled, but yeah, walking up to somebody, like, you'd get an install at somebody's house, and then as your job is getting installed, go knock on 3 doors down this way and 3 doors down that way. Well, yeah, I don't really want to, but I think back to when I was with True Green. This was back when like Nextel phones were a thing. They had like GPS tracking on these things, so they would know if you were not knocking doors and if you were not walking. So you had to do what you had to do. But
dang, man!
Oh, it was, man.
So you did used car salesman as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like that?
If you look at my resume, I've had the most cringiest jobs. I was also a janitor for a couple years later in life too. This is when I left our side hustle for a short bit. I kind of went and helped a cleaning company as like a janitor. But anyway, used car salesman. Did I enjoy it? Actually, I loved it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I started in the car business in 2010. And at that time, I'm like, oh, I love cars. This is perfect for me. This is exactly what I want to do. Well, turns out you end up actually hating cars more than you ever thought you did. But
why?
I think you just get so focused on like why cars are not necessarily the greatest investment or the great, like all the cringy things that salespeople do. It's just like, I don't really love cars, but yeah, I love the game, like the game of like getting people out of their car, getting people in the door, like all your word tracks of how you get them to just give them your information. Like it's just,
That sounds
it's
cringy
all,
too.
it 100% it is 100%, but a lot of my like weirdness comes out too. Like I hated test drives because I hate riding in the back of a car and then people don't put the air on. And so it's 95 outside, it's 112 in the car.
You're beating.
Yeah, like can we just get back to I've had some like a little Ford Rangers where I had to sit in the back of like the little half door. Like some of the things you think back on, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. But probably sold the car that day. So
were you good at that as well?
Yeah. Yes. That's again, like it's having those like goals. Like it was always like, I was never number one, but I was okay with that because the guy that was number one, he was on another level. Like there's like, you're familiar with David Goggins.
Yes.
Like he was like the David Goggins, but of like car sales. Like I don't know what he did before he got in the morning, and I don't even know where he went for half the day. Yeah, like I don't know where he went for half the day, but somehow he's selling cars. It's not clean, but he does it. So I was happy being the second top sales guy, I guess you'd say. But no, I really did. I really enjoyed having like a target, having a goal, hitting my goal, exceeding my goal, and then the ability to grow within that industry as well. So I started out very quickly I started out in sales, just like anybody would. And then I fastly moved into internet sales and internet sales manager. And then I started working in the finance department. And then I started, started as a sales manager. And then, just kind of slowly, or not really slowly, I kind of quickly grew into, quite a thing within that industry. So
what's the difference between a regular salesperson and an internet salesperson? Like, what does that mean?
So an internet salesperson takes back, I guess it's probably a little bit less now, but any internet leads that come in go directly to the sales department.
Which has to be way more now.
Yeah. Yeah. So back then we'd get like 100 leads a month or so. So that's it's like kind of all you focus on. At that time I was in used car sale, or I was in new and used sales, but then we had a person in internet sales, and any leads that she got in that were opportunities to, appointments, they would go directly to me. So it was kind of like, it was really nice. Like, but
that was like your pipeline feed as well as having people walk in.
Yeah.
Do you think the general car sale philosophy is going to die?
Yes, I think so. I think it almost has to. Like
Yeah, so I bought a Rivian 3 years ago. I just passed my 3-year anniversary. And the greatest part about it was I never even test drove it. I just followed them. I've read everything on it. I watched every video. I knew everything about the vehicle, but not actually driving it. And the sales process was filling out forms online, submitting all my information, and then the truck got delivered to me. Like, I don't ever want to go to a car dealership ever again.
Absolutely not.
And it's because I don't enjoy the game. Like, I hate it. Like, I can't stand that portion of it. And it's so funny because, like, when I talk to my daughter, she's 22, 23. And, like, that process it terrifies her. So I can see as the generations coming up, maybe it's just because she's a girl, I'm not sure. But I don't think the generations coming up want to even deal with that.
No, absolutely. It's funny. I actually first of all, I knew you had a Rivian. Second of all, I've watched your videos because I stalked you too. So, and I think it is
welcome.
I think it is so cool that they update like that whole like automatic update is like the craziest. I think I was this is like going back 6 months now. I watched this because I was telling somebody I knew, I'm like, you gotta check these Rivians out. Like that is just crazy to me.
Yeah. Anyway, the things that I have in my truck now never even existed when I bought it. And we're talking like many things they just implement. Like they just changed the entire dash setup in the vehicle like last month because they got enough feedback from customers and they altered everything.
That is amazing. That is, I mean, kudos to them. That is really cool. Because like I have my Explorer, it's already outdated. And then you have like the Apple CarPlay, like that's cool, but you still have to plug it in. But now you can do it wirelessly. But like it's not. It just it gets so outdated so quickly. But
yeah.
I stopped in at where I one of the dealerships I worked at, they had a car that I was looking at. I stopped in there on Saturday. And I'm like, I know these guys. I trust these guys. That's why I'm stopping here. But they also have the car I'm looking for. But it is no different than it was 5-6 years ago. Like these guys, I pull in the lot. Within 30 seconds, they're out the door. I'm like, hold up, guys. Like, number one, I know who you are. Number two, I used to work here. Like, I know all the things. I'm like, don't waste. So these are all the terms. Don't waste your up on me. Like, meaning like, so an up is like when you literally go out and talk to somebody, that's considered an up.
What does that mean?
So it's just like you're taking a customer. It's just the sales term of taking.
So let me ask you this. Is there like a sequence? Like everybody knows the next car coming in is going to be Jake's because is there like a waiting list and you cycle through that? Okay.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the dealership. So sometimes it's an open floor, which means any salesman can go out any door and snag any customer.
Is that like a fight sequence though?
One of the companies I was with, you would literally have like 3 doors blast open and people would just go. And then whoever could get the person out of the door, that was I have some stories. There's people pinned up against the wall. Like,
oh my goodness, everybody's learning like self-defense out there.
Absolutely. But so the place I was at though, if you're in a rotation, or the place, the last place I stopped in on Saturday and worked. You're on a rotation. So you go out, you talk to a customer. If they ask you any question, that is considered your up. And then you get back to the end of the line, basically. So if it's Saturday at 9:00 and you walk out to the car and somebody's like, is this color red? And you're like, yes, it is. They're like, thank you. Have a good day. Well, you might not see another customer till 3:00 in the afternoon because just the way the rotation works. So
it's any question that's asked by the customer that you are tagged to that, and that is your turn.
That was yours. Yep.
Interesting. What other secrets do you have?
Probably so many. We could do an entire podcast just in the car business.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I bought my truck before I got my Rivian. I did it all over email, and the guy asked me, "Can I call you?" And I said, "No. The first time we will talk will be the moment if I come and buy, because I don't." Like, I have rules on the way I want to buy things, and you're either going to play by my rules or I'm going to go somewhere else. Yeah. But he was he's like, "What do you mean I can't call you?" And I was like, "Listen, like, this isn't negotiable. Like, this is my terms, not yours."
Yep.
And I do enough research online that like driving it isn't going to make that much of a difference for me, because especially if it's new. Now, if it's used, it's a little bit of a different story. You got to make sure everything's working correctly. But I don't know. That's interesting. What are 3 things every person should know when they're walking into a car dealership? What are we looking for?
Yeah. Number 1, don't walk into the car dealership is probably the first thing. That's like, honestly, do your research ahead of time.
Okay.
Get as much information as you can. Make sure you're checking like the Carfax or the auto check.
Okay.
Try and get the service records. It's amazing now that I'm out of the car business and I go and ask a company for like, can I see what you did to the shop? How they will like try and shift around, not telling you that stuff. Like, if they're not going to tell you what they actually did to it in their shop, like, what are the tire readings? What are the brakes? What's the inspection? What'd you do like, how much work did you put into it? So let's see, Carfax, service records. I had another one that slipped my tongue, but just as much information as you can get. Like, if you have a trade, send them your trade information. Oh, pricing. So I ran into this when we were looking at a car about a year ago, and I won't say it's based on the states, but there's certain states I will not buy a car. Like, I'm kind of focused on, like, if I'm going to buy a car, it's going to be through like 3 or 4 dealerships, or I don't even know what I'm going to do because I just don't want to deal with it. But there was a car up in New York, and I'm like, this is the one we want. This is perfect. We're talking back and forth. And what it came down to is like, no, this price is only if you finance through our dealership and you trade this car. And it was like so many stipulations. And then you have to tack on the dealership. And so the price ended up being like $3,000 or $4,000 more if I brought my own financing. So it was.
Yeah, they're trying to get back end points through their financing and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I could probably tell you 100 different things to do before you go into the car business. I would not take their financing if you can, unless there's some kind of like special financing through a new car, like through new cars.
So take your own.
Take your own. You always try your local credit unions.
Okay.
I've always done that. I've always just go through my local credit union, because the only thing you can do is say, hey, if you can match my rate, great, I'll go through you. But more than likely, if you're taking whatever their rate is, it's more than likely marked up
It's baked.
2 points. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which is,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like, they got to make their money, but
Listen, yeah, you mark up material, you mark up labor. Like, I get all that, subcontractors, all that stuff, but then you run into contracts to say no markup on anything but labor.
right.
That's really good.
Yep.
What was your main, like, what did you learn most from being in car sales? Like, what was your takeaways from that?
Man, that just overall, like, I learned a lot of grit through that. Like, that was a lot of, that was 10 years of my life of nights and weekends. And like, it was, so when I got into management, which wasn't too long into it, it was what's called bell to bell. So that was 9 to 8, 3 days a week. And then you'd have a 9 to 5, and then a day off during the week because you worked every Saturday.
Oh.
So, and Saturday was 9 to 5. So you're working 45, 50 hours easily. Plus, you know, like, looking back, I'm like, well, I only started at 9 o'clock, but it's kind of kills your morning. There was certain days when I was in sales, I wouldn't start till 12. Well, that really kills your morning. But yeah, it was just, it was a lot of late nights, a lot of, like, you think you'd leave at 5 o'clock on a Saturday. Well, you're wrapping up a deal, or a customer pulls on the lot at 4:30 and they want to test drive 3 cars. And it's just like, so yeah, somehow I found a way to endure and just get through that part of my life. And yeah, I'd say ultimately it really has made me who I am today, and really made me grateful for the hours that I have now, and the weekends that I have now, and the time that I have now. Like, it's just, yeah, looking back, it was what I had to do and what made sense for me at the time, but I don't ever want to go back.
Yeah, when you learn you can endure long hours or not be super disappointed when you're not walking out the door when you're supposed to, because when I was on outages for power plant construction, 60, 70-hour weeks were not uncommon for me. Mm-hmm. And when you realize it won't break you, you realize that when you have long days now, when you don't have to have them, it doesn't upset you. Like, because you're like, okay, like, this is whatever. It happens sometimes and I'll deal with it. But when you're in a 9 to 5 strict in and strict out, it's very hard then to comprehend that sometimes you're just going to have to stay late and deal with it. Customer calls and you got to deal with that. That's good. I like that. All right. So then you move into B2B.
Mm-hmm.
And one, what was your first B2B? And then what have you learned so far in kind of that space?
Yeah. So my first B2B was when I got into manufacturing, which was with Paul B. Zimmerman, PBZ Manufacturing, and Keystone Coating, which was about 4 years ago. So I actually applied. I was just at that point, I'm like, I just need to get out of the car business. This was right as COVID was kind of ending, and there was just all these things happening. I'm like, it's time to make a change. We were shut down in the car business at that point for at least 6 weeks. So kind of going back, and then our dealership was selling. I'm like, everything is lining up for me to get out the door now. So I actually ended up applying for an outside sales role with Paul B. Zimmerman at the time, but it was just like based out of New York. And I didn't even know what it was for. I'm like, I don't really care at this point. I need to get something in my realm of what I know. And so yeah, I ended up not taking that job because they're like, you're not planning to move to New York, are you? I'm like, I wasn't really thinking that. So, yeah, I ended up, they had another position open, which I didn't really read it as an outside sales role, but that's what it was. So it was outside sales for manufacturing services and powder coating services. And so that's where I started about 4 years ago in manufacturing. And it's kind of funny, the things when you look back on your resume, you're like, I don't know how I got into telemarketing. I don't know how I got into door-to-door. I don't know how, I kind of know how I got into the car business because I had kind of again, going back to the connections, like the owners of the car dealership, my dad did work for in their house, and he was good friends with them. Like, he knew them, and he kind of got me in the door. And then, just like the little things that kind of, you think back on it.
It's who you know, not what you know sometimes.
Exactly.
Right? Most of the time.
Right. So, but yeah, so I knew nothing of manufacturing. I didn't wake up one day and be like, man, I really love metal and welding and laser cutting. Like, it was literally, I have to laugh at this. Like, it's literally the night before my first interview, and I'm watching YouTube videos on like powder coating. I'm like, Don't even know what powder coating is. No idea. Yeah. So that was like complete just shock when I first walked in, but it was great because I got to spend, at that time I spent my first week at each location really learning what they do, what these systems are, and the more I'm in it, and now that I'm at Viocity Group, I'm in a very similar role. But just really starting to get an understanding and appreciation for the work that goes in. Like it's more than like on the laser side. Like I get that stuff. I see it, but there's a lot more on the back end of that I don't necessarily see and understand. Like these machines are huge and great, and they do great things, and they do them super fast. But like I don't understand all the programming that goes into that. And then you take it one step further, and you give it to the guys over the weld shop. And then you give it to the guys that are using, these old 1980 press brakes and rollers and shears. And you're like, these guys got some skills that I can't even comprehend. But
I know. Same.
It's so cool like the more I do it, the more I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like it's pretty neat to see what you can make.
I mean, they take flat sheets and turn them into crazy things. It's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's it is interesting. A couple things there. So you have the ability to go into something you know nothing about and figure it out. And it sounds like you've done that multiple iterations. Kind of if you just decide that you need to figure something out, you go into it and you can figure it out and you can be successful with drive.
Yep. Yeah. It's one thing I like a challenge. I enjoy being challenged, and if I can't figure it out, I'm going to find a way to figure it out, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability and hope that it's successful.
Why do you think you always naturally rolled into manager positions?
I think it's just something that I've always kind of enjoyed. Like I enjoy managing more than the actual process of selling, I guess you could put it that way. Like even so with my previous role, I was in outside sales, and then I transitioned into a sales and marketing manager role where I came from. And being able to, like, I was good at outside sales to a degree, but I think a lot of my skills more lied in kind of seeing the bigger picture and putting plans together and helping other people kind of fit their abilities. Like, hey, your skills are here. You should be doing this. My skills are not there. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to help you go do that successfully, and I'm going to help you go do that successfully. And like that worked extremely well, at least I thought it did. So
identifying potential in people.
Yeah.
I think that's the greatest gift we can give anyone, anybody. If you can find out where they may not be happy or where they're better suited, and that can change people's careers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the big thing for me is just being like, I'm not good at this. Like, there's certain like I don't have to be good at everything, and I'm okay with that. Like even with certain things with marketing, I'm like, I might suck at marketing, but I have a wife of 13 years that can crush anybody in marketing. I'll just piggyback on her for something. Like pretty much whatever she's posting on social media, I'm like, I'm just gonna do that because it's working for her. She's really good at it. So
that's brilliant. What part of the managing leadership do you think leaders and managers are the same person? Like, where do you sit on that fence? And has it been difficult, hard, or not? I mean, what kind of manager do you think you are?
Man, you got some tough questions. No, I think there's a way to manage. There's managers and then there's leaders. There's definitely like, I see a manager as just a like every day go through the motions. Here's your job. Here's your process. Here, this is what you do. But I think a leader really lays out a good plan and really helps you implement and understand the plan and helps you like see the goals. Like, okay, no, this is our vision. This is our goal. This is how I'm going to help you get there. Because if you're winning, I'm winning, the company's winning, everybody's happy.
Yeah, sure.
So I think we can just easily get sucked into, and I think I did this in the car business where I didn't really understand leadership. I didn't understand there was a difference between managing and leadership. And I was young and I was managing older guys, and I was just like, no, this is the process. This is what you do. This is, blah, blah, blah. Like, it did not work well in my favor. And a lot of that is you lead by example too. Like like I said, there's a lot of things I don't enjoy doing, but I will go do them because sometimes you just have to. Because
Yeah.
you should expect other people to do them. If you expect other people to do them, you should also be able to do it yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I battled with that for a long time of being able to manage someone that I didn't know how to do their job. And I remember talking to my previous president at where I worked, and I told him, I said, how can you possibly manage someone when you have no recollection or you have no ability to do what they're doing? And then I sit in the seat I sit now where I can't build anything, like
Yeah.
anything in the world. I'm so incompetent in that world. It's so funny because my dad can literally build anything.
I'm the
And
same way. Yep.
I'm like, my story is like he builds anything and then he calls me when the internet doesn't work and I solve that problem for him. I'm
Right.
like, it's
Right.
sweet.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. It's amazing. I'm like, I don't even know if that's my dad. Like, I know we look identical, but like what in the world? Like, where did I even come from? Like,
I
I'll build
know.
something, he'll build something. It's like mine might fit together with some glue, staples, and a nail that's sticking out, and his is like perfectly just formed. I'm like, whatever, man.
Well, we know you can build bookshelves because you tore it
Yeah.
up for 6 or 7 years.
But at least I'm not the only one. This is a good therapy session.
Oh
I know
yeah,
I'm
no,
not the
I
only
am.
one.
I watch YouTube videos on how to change the oil on my tractor. Like you name it, I can barely do anything. So, um,
But you get it
but
done. But you
yeah,
try.
but
Like
it
that's.
goes to show that like you don't necessarily have to know how to do them, right? That's not
Mhm.
all. Like leadership is what you said. Like if you know how where your weaknesses are and you have people who are very good at them, you just put people in the right seat.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes hard for people because it's a super it's one of those insecurity things where you got to be okay with being like, okay, I'm awful at this.
Hmm.
And I need to let people know that I'm awful at this and I'm gonna throw it out there because I need to fill those spots with people who know what they're doing.
Right.
You mentioned multiple times that you're goal driven. How, as BD manager of Viocity, how does Viocity hold or give you goals to target? And then how do you
Hmm.
give your people goals?
Yeah. So we have they're called rocks, which I
Okay.
guess is a new term for goals in a way. But so we have I've been there about a little over 5 months now.
Okay.
But coming into it, they had BD, they didn't have BD. Now we have BD. It's
Okay.
been kind of this balance of like, it's kind of I came in with like, hey, this is my department to manage, to
To mold.
grow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and that was kind of part of my interview process. Is like, here's my plan. Here's what I plan to do in the first 3 months. Here's what I plan to do in the first 6 months, and then
Yeah.
by a year, here's where I'm going to be. And I'm very like, check it off the list, move to the next, check it like, and I'm
Yeah.
looking back and I'm like, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that. And yeah, it's just like there's a big there's a big rock out there. We'll call it a rock. There's a big rock out there that we want to hit. And I think getting an understanding of, hey, it's not going to happen overnight, but if we just continue to implement this and we continue to take these steps, like we're going to get there.
Yeah.
And we're already starting to see some of that. I mean, I think wherever you go, I've learned this, wherever you go, it's not going to be perfect. You're always going to have people that you don't necessarily agree with or might not be on the same page. But if you're willing to kind of work through some of that stuff and just get used to dealing with, there's going to be hard people in life and that's okay.
Yeah.
But we're all ultimately working towards the same goal. We all ultimately want to win. And that's the biggest thing I really appreciate where I'm at is there's a huge focus of winning and there's a huge focus of growth. And where there's growth, I want to be there. I want to be a part of it. I want to help it. I want to be all in because I do not do well sitting still, as you
Sure.
probably have learned the short bit here. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know about Viocity, and then I obviously did some research, and I'm thinking, and I'm not sure if this is true, but you guys do quite a bit of M&A as well, because it looks like you have multiple companies under the umbrella. Is that correct?
So what
Mergers and acquisitions, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So is there hardships with that? I'm only asking, like, obviously people think of mergers and acquisitions and they usually go to like private equity and it's like, that doesn't look all the same. But you can still build really solid cultures and still keep people and do things specific ways in M&As. Like, have you experienced any of that in your 5 months that you've been there?
Yeah. So I mean, I wasn't there for any of the
Okay.
acquisitions, the mergers, or anything like that. But yeah, as far as from a culture standpoint, I think whenever that happens, you're going to have that kind of that struggle
Yeah, sure.
of kind of creating that new culture. But from what I've seen, it seems like it works well. Like this is
Awesome.
they're there not to take it over and run it into the ground. Like they're there
Yeah.
to keep who's there because they just want to take it, keep those people, and grow it into even more. Because
Awesome.
again, they're goal driven. They have that mindset of like we want to win. And at this stage of life, like it's hard to find good people. So if we already have good people working for us, why not
Yeah.
just take over, treat them better, and continue to grow it? So I think they do a great
Yeah, I love
job with
that.
that. And yeah,
No, that's awesome. The other thing you put in the Google form was, um, we are competitors, I guess, kind of too. I mean, we both do very similar things,
sure.
and it's so interesting because I'm a competitive person at heart. I mean, I played sports, I played college sports, I game, I love talking shit and all the fun stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, from a business perspective, I understand that. But you just said it's so hard to find people that I think there's opportunities for overflow and collaboration, especially with people in this area, because we have so much talent in the York County,
Mm-hmm.
Lancaster area for
Yep.
manufacturing industrial work. There won't be a time when we have enough people for all of this work. And, I would love York and Lancaster County to be like the powerhouse of the US for that kind of work. And there's no reason, that we all shouldn't be having conversations to say
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, we got too much going on over here. Can you help me out? Like
Right.
I want that for everyone in this area,
Absolutely.
because I want the industrial people in this area to absolutely slay and make as much money as they possibly can.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. That's been a huge, and I think that's part of the reason I'm like, I want to be on this podcast just because like I've been to your location. I've been inside your walls. Like I know what you have, but I'm not like, I'm going to take S&W or SWF to the ground. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. Like
Right.
like we've had people in our doors and I'm like, you're technically could be a competitor, but yet we're working for you and vice
Yes.
versa. And they're saying the same thing. Like there's so
Yes.
much work out there. Why not try and work together instead of work against each other? So I'm becoming a huge proponent of that, of like, how can we just continue to befriend everybody and work
Yeah.
together and work towards the greater good? And there's plenty of work out there. So.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's so funny because when I came in, like that was kind of a big culture shock. When we started talking to competitors and having subcontractors that our competitors help us and stuff like that. And it took a little convincing to the group to be like, I think it's going to be okay. Like, I don't know, because I've never really done some of this before, but like, when you have friends and you have connections and you leave a good impression, like they may call you and say like, hey, can you help us out too? And it's not always a one-way street. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we can do more and more of that. I think the generations coming up are more open to that
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
I think the older generation may be a little bit. I know Al would have totally fired me for some of the things that I've done for sure,
Yeah.
because it was a closed off approach to that, right? What's ours is ours, and let's make sure we keep a secret because we don't want anything going. I do think if we treat our employees well enough and we treat our customers well enough, that we shouldn't have an issue there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you will lose some, and you will lose some employees to that, and maybe it's a better opportunity you can't provide, and that's the way life goes, right? You don't want people staying if they're unhappy. So
Absolutely. Right.
yeah, I thought that was really brilliant because I live in that same headspace very much. And I'm finding more and more that a lot of our competitors think that same way, just
Mm-hmm.
because like they're probably, I don't know if in my lifetime of work that I'll ever have enough people in the US for, the damage we've done probably for the last 20 years.
Sure.
So, I mean, what are we? I don't even know the stats anymore. Just keep getting worse and worse on the people retiring versus coming into the trades. I think we just got to keep pushing that envelope as much as we can. And it seems to be people are noticing, and people are taking, trades jobs very seriously and realizing that there's a really good living there without debt. And I think that's only going to just explode as we keep pushing the visibility of that. So I think that's really great.
Absolutely.
What would you tell someone that's of your tire sales history? What type is your favorite when you look back on all that? You said like, holy crap, I forgot I did some of this stuff. What was the best time?
Honestly, like I think I don't want to go back there, but the used car sales
Yeah.
was somewhat like, just because the stuff you could get away with, like the things you could say when you just walk in and you'd sit behind the table, you'd shake their hand, you'd present the numbers, you'd tell them all the like I was very honest, at least tried to be. I wasn't one of those sleazy salespeople, but
Yeah.
like just the word tracks that you'd come up with, and you'd walk out, you'd shake their hand, you'd get the deal, and you'd be high five, and you're like, who was that? Like, what the world? I think that's kind of why I am the way I am today. I'm kind of like just a little bit weird, but only certain times am I a little bit weird. So, but yeah, like looking back, I'm like, that was some fun times, but I don't want to go back there, but definitely fun.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. What would you tell somebody who's like getting into sales, with your record and all the type of sales you've been in? What are three keys like going into sales as like a business?
Oh, just be yourself for one thing.
Hmm.
Be yourself and don't mimic other people. Like
Ooh.
don't go into it and be like, oh, that guy's the number one salesperson, and I want to do exactly what he does, because it will not work for you.
Hmm.
Do what works for you. Stay true to who you are. If you're a honest, upfront, nice person, just be honest, upfront, and nice, and people will they'll like you for who you are.
Yeah.
People, what was it? People will buy from who they know, like, and trust. Gosh, these
Ooh.
stupid word tracks are coming out from so many years ago. It's crazy. They'll buy, yeah, who you know, like, and trust. So
Smile then dial, no like and
smile and
trust.
dial. Right, that's my last one. Smile before you dial. That's yeah.
That's
No,
really
it's
good.
that's honestly the biggest thing. It's just be yourself. Like, it's sales. Like, we're all technically salespeople. Like, we sit through
Hmm.
meetings on almost a daily basis, and it's like, half the time I'm relying on my other team members for sales, because we're all kind of in a way responsible for sales development. So,
Yeah. What would you tell yourself, your 18, 20-year-old self, or let's say right out of college? So you just decided you don't want to stay in college, which I'm sure was tough. And I'm
mhm.
sure it was a little bit of a mental, I'm sure you had some thoughts. What would you tell that person today?
I looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. Um,
Awesome.
it's one of those things where we can always live with regrets. We can always say, "Hey, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. I wish I wouldn't have come out of college with debt." And oh my word, like, I wish I wouldn't have started that business. But no, I actually do, because it makes you who you are. Like, it took me a long time to really start to believe, like, be grateful for where I am in life. But
Yeah.
now that I'm here, I'm like, I wouldn't change a thing, because who I am now is everything that led up to this point has made me who I am today.
Yeah.
So it gives you such a different appreciation. I think if everything is just handed to you, and I would have, if I go back and I'm like, no, change that and change that and change that, I'd be a miserable person. I might still be a miserable person today, but at least I have many exciting things to talk about. So.
Yeah. No, this is brilliant, Jake. One, I want to thank you for throwing a line out there and filling out the form and coming on. Especially like we talked about, like as competitors, some people just aren't comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, really focusing. I mean, you preach about the power connection. I would say that was a big leap in doing that. So I appreciate you doing that. Is there anything that you'd like to promote that you'd like the maybe 15 people that listen to this?
I know. Come on, I'm telling you, this is going viral. This is it. This
This
is
is
the
the one.
one. This is the one. I will tell you that this is just totally random, but I stalked you. Um, so you went to the Cayman Islands.
I did, yes.
Yeah. So we went the past 2 years of the Cayman Islands. So
Nice.
I'm like listening to your YouTube video of like, huh, I wonder
Yeah.
what you liked at the Caymans, what you didn't like at the Caymans, but
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that. I just that's
No,
how I,
did you? I never been there before, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
yeah, we
The people were so nice. It was the safest Caribbean island I think I've been to.
mhm.
And you can actually like walk downtown and don't have to worry about anything. The water's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah, there wasn't a bad thing I think I ran into there. I just thought it was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that has nothing to do with my last 15 seconds of promotion or whatever. But
No,
anyway,
yeah,
I love the power of like stalking people and getting to know people and actually using it against them. But honestly, though, it creates conversation. Like, it's one of those
absolutely.
things where it's like, what you put it out there. I want to know so we can talk about it. Like,
Yeah,
let's go. Let's not make this
yeah.
weird. I really like to make things weird though. So.
So, is there anything you'd like to promote? Is there anything you want to put out there that people should know?
Just honestly, just if we're wrapping this all up,
Hmm.
sales in general, just be yourself. Anything in
Hmm.
general, like just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I think for so long I've been held back of like, I don't want to post on LinkedIn
Hmm.
because I'm scared of what people think. I don't want to reach out to Brandon because what if I actually get picked to go on this podcast, and what are we going to talk about? And like,
Everyone
but
gets picked at this point.
but right, but one day, I'll be signing autographs from your, because this went viral. But like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because you just never know what's going to come from that. And it
Yeah.
doesn't always have to be to your benefit. Like, you might actually
Hmm.
be helping somebody else in that. But from my side, I appreciate you having me on here. This has been fun. This made me kind of think back on a lot of things that I've forgotten about, and really brought some fun things to light. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Any nerves going into something like this? Because I know some people probably don't do it because they don't think they have a story. I hear that a lot of LinkedIn. I say, listen, the core of this podcast is you can learn something from everyone. Everyone has something to talk about.
Yeah.
It's my job to pull that out. So don't worry, just fill out the form. But did you have any nerves or anything like that rolling into this?
So that's the kind of funny thing, is like very minimal, but like this kind of stuff, and maybe that goes back to telemarketing and having a podcast. And like anytime I can be behind the camera, I don't know why I love it. Like we did Facebook Lives back in the day. Like we did so much stuff on YouTube, whatever. And like I actually did YouTube videos back when I was in the car business. And if you look on YouTube now, they have like 80-some thousand views. I'm like,
I'm going, baby.
I was so famous. Look at me go. Like, but I love that stuff. And it's weird. I won't knock on your door. I don't want to talk to you, but I'll go on YouTube and make a completely stupid video. And
that's fascinating. I'm the same exact way. I do not like social functions. I don't like going to those big mixer things. I'm the one in the corner on my phone because they make me really uncomfortable, but I could stand in front of a camera because I'm in complete control. And then I know I have the ability to edit afterwards. And then 80,000 people can look at it. It doesn't bother me. And I will reply to every single comment, shitty or not. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I've been called everything, especially the worst. I mean, I have a gaming channel. Some of those comments can get pretty gnarly, but actually like the travel channel is the worst because people get very upset when I didn't like a place that they really, really like.
Interesting.
Like I just had one that somebody said, well, you're just too hard to please. You got to enjoy life. Life is too short. I'm like, bro.
I would struggle with that. That would be,
I just said no. I said, I get life is too short, but like, it's just my opinion. I think this place is highly expensive and it's gouging. That's all. I'm good. I love value. I don't mind spending a lot on vacation because it's one of my favorite things to do, but don't gouge me on like sunscreen and Red Bull. Like I got a problem with that. Like, stop it. Anyway. It's really stupid. Now that's really funny. I'm going to go find some used car.
Look up.
You have to send them to me.
I will, because it's like the 2011 Nissan Altima. I did like a 15-minute review. Man, you'll look at me and be like, who is this guy? Like, oh my word.
Did you have a crushing beard back then?
No, it was like very skimpy on my face. Like just.
Please don't tell me it was a chin strap.
Nah, I had a mustache a few years ago. Never had the chin. I did do a goatee because that was
nice. That was
normal. Yeah. Oh my gosh,
that's amazing.
I'll send you some though. That's
right. That's awesome.
You'll appreciate them.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much once again for coming on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I love learning about people. This was super fun, and I will. If you have any fitness advice or. I don't think I'm ready for cold plunges, but I'm going to certainly start getting my mind there because you've made me think about. Now I'm annoyed that I can't get over that mental block. So now I'm going to try to get over that mental block because I'm like, this thing cannot defeat me.
Yep.
That's awesome.
You'll get there. Don't do the
all
showers.
Right, buddy. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
See ya.